Te hemos llamado al nota de la tienda y que te dé un código nuevo, ¿no?
Claro. Hello. I have an appointment.
Alright, so
I just got back from the OBGYN not too long ago, and for some reason they didn't let me record heartbeat this time. The last time I was able to record it, and I guess it just depends on the midwife because I don't see the same person every time, just because I don't know which midwife is going to be in the labor room with me. So it's good for me to be familiar with, I guess, majority of their midwives or all their midwives. But anyway, every midwife that I've spoken to, they've been all very nice. For my appointment, she did ask me if I had any questions. And I'm not sure if I did mention this already, but when I went for my ultrasound a few weeks ago, the sonographer told me that the baby's head was measuring 5 weeks ahead. And I would have to schedule another ultrasound. And then I was like, okay, so if I schedule another ultrasound still measuring way ahead, then what happens? And she was like, well, the doctor would want to see you. And I'm like, well, the doctor, what do you think the doctor would say? And then she was like, well, they're probably going to advise you to induce and not go past your due date. Personally, I'd rather not get induced before my due date. I don't plan on going past 42 weeks, but at the very least, I like to give my body the chance to try and see if the baby would want to come before 42 weeks. I told the midwife this, and she said, personally, it's your choice. And I would advise you to go past your due date, maybe 41 weeks, but I wouldn't advise you to go past 42 weeks, which I already know. And she basically said, give your body the chance to do what it's made to do. If your body can grow the baby, your body knows what to do to get the baby out, for the most part. And again, for me, I'm very open-minded with labor. If it comes to C-section, then by all means, at the end of the day, I want my baby to be okay, and I want to be okay. That's all that matters at the end of the day. The reason why I'm even seeing midwives in the first place and why I'm going to this hospital, because I had gone to a different hospital in my first trimester, and I had to switch because the first nurse that I talked to, she was so dismissive, and I left that place due to 3 reasons. The first one was because when I was 8 weeks pregnant, I woke up and I saw blood. And I didn't know blood was a normal part of pregnancy. I didn't rush to the hospital because I had a phone appointment with a nurse that afternoon. So when I talked to her, and mind you, I had an ultrasound a week before, so I'm thinking she should have had the result. And the reason why we had that appointment was because she could tell me about the result of my ultrasound. I get on the phone with her and I tell her, hey, you know, I'm bleeding. And then this lady says, oh, you know, it could be SCH, subchronic hematoma. And please correct me if I'm wrong. Subchronic hematoma means the placenta didn't fully attach itself to the uterus. It's pretty common. It happens to a lot of women. As the baby grows, it's gonna eventually attach itself. And that's what happened in my case, because eventually it's the spotting stopped at 17 weeks. So I went from 8 weeks to 17 weeks spotting. Anyways, I told her that I was bleeding or I was spotting, and she said it could be subchronic hematoma or it could be threatened miscarriage, but she didn't really explain what she was talking about. So I kept my cool the entire phone call, and after I got off the phone, I started crying. I was sobbing hysterically because when I found out I was pregnant, I'm like, oh cool, I'm pregnant. All she had to say was threatened miscarriage for me to just lose my mind. And I'm thinking, oh my God, So I could have life growing inside of me, and the next minute it's just gone. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I just assumed the worst, and I was crying. When it's happening to you and you're not even familiar, it's your first time going through all this emotion. I went on Reddit, and honestly, it's good to do your research when you're pregnant or when you're doing certain things. Also, keep that research at a minimum, depending on what you're researching, because you could go crazy. And I went on Reddit and I was reading all these stories, and I was freaking out. So I went to the hospital and I was like, listen, I need another appointment for an ultrasound. Like, there is no way I am going to wait a month. I need an appointment for tomorrow or next week. The max I'm willing to wait is next week. I need to know what's going on in my body. And at first I was upset with the nurse, but later I thought about it. This lady deals with pregnant women every single day. And I know, especially at first trimester, things happen. If you do certain things every day and you're just used to seeing, the absolute worst happen, or just things happen during first trimester, you become desensitized to it. Like, you're not emotionally attached to it because you're thinking, oh, it happens all the time. But at the same time, the person it's happening to is a human being. For me, I'm a human being. This is my life and this is my child. Even though it's your job and you're used to seeing these things happen every day, I have to advocate for myself. I have to know what's going on. I'm not just gonna just take your word for it. That was my first red flag at that hospital. The second red flag was when I went in to do my NIPT test. They made me do a glucose test. This was at 12 weeks. And when I went in, they were like, oh, doctor said you're gonna do the glucose test. And I'm like, no, I just came here for NIPT test. And I argued with these people back and forth for like 20 minutes, saying, like, and I was telling them it's way too early. I'm not doing glucose tests today. And the doctor had to come out and talk to me, and she said, we do the glucose test early. And I was just confused, like, why am I doing this early? And mind you, I don't have any history of diabetes in my family, so it didn't make any sense. At the time, I didn't know better, but I was also thinking, what if I don't have diabetes? I don't want to regret anything. I did the 1 hour glucose test and I passed it, but it was still high. So I was like 3 numbers off of like the high range. So for example, if the range is between 21 to 79, I was 76. So he told me come back and do the 3 hour test. So at this point, I'm thinking the drink is nasty. I don't want to do this. But then again, what if I have diabetes? They scared me. So the 3 hour test basically works like you go in, before you drink the glucose drink, basically, which is sugar drink, they draw your blood and you're supposed to go fasting about, I think they told me 12 hours. You're not supposed to eat anything 12 hours prior to come in to do the test. So I didn't eat anything, I was fasting. So they did a blood draw, and then you drink the drink, and then you wait 1 hour. You're not supposed to, they told me don't drink water, don't sleep, don't eat, nothing. Just sit in the lobby and just wait. So after 1 hour, they drew blood. Second hour, they drew blood. And then third hour, they drew another blood. So that's 4 blood in total. The second time I went, they did the first blood, and then I drank the drink. I did the second blood draw, and then I went to the restroom. This was around 12 p.m. and somebody was eating their lunch. This was still in my first trimester. I was still so sick and very nauseous, and little things could just set me up and I'll start puking. The smell of that lunch, oh my gosh, it was disgusting to me at that point. And I knew I was about to puke. I kept trying to hold it in, but I couldn't hold it in. And like the glucose drink just came, it was everywhere. I almost started crying because I'm just like, oh my gosh, I know they're gonna ask me to do it again, which is exactly what happened. So at this point, I have drank this drink 3 times, and it was about to be my 4th. I did it again, and this time my numbers were so low, it just did not even make sense for me to have like gone through what I went through. And mind you, I did it again at 25 weeks. I drank the glucose drink 5 times. 5 different times. That leads me to my third reason. My third reason for leaving that hospital was I couldn't even deliver there. It was a clinic, and I had no idea. I just went there one day, and I'm like, hold on, I don't see any rooms or bed. So I asked them, like, okay, so where do I deliver? They told me, oh, we recommend our patients to go to this hospital and that hospital. And I'm thinking, so I cannot even deliver my baby here? They're like, no. And I'm thinking, okay, so why am I here? Like, it doesn't make sense. So I did my research and found this hospital that I'm going to now. And the main reason why I chose the hospital is because they're midwives. And I know midwives tend to try to do things naturally first before they start talking surgical stuff. And I say all this to say it is very important for you to advocate for yourself. Don't just go by what somebody tells you. A lot of times it depends on the doctor. The doctor might tell you, oh, you know, maybe your baby is big, let's do C-section. Or you might have another doctor that will tell you a lot of times during the 3rd trimester they're wrong, and let's just try to do things naturally and see what your body does, and if it doesn't work then we'll do C-section. So it really just depends on your doctor. You just want to do your research and not just be like, oh, these people know what they're doing. Yes, they know what they're doing, but sometimes there are other options that they're not presenting to you. And I'm glad I'm learning that with my first kid. And again, for me, it's my life and my child, so I just have to make sure everything that I'm doing or everything they're telling me is in my best interest and not because they see dollar signs. Anyway, I'm done with my rant. I'm gonna finish putting the baby stuff up.
It's hard to see when your eyes let go. Who's gonna save you? Who's gonna make you not fool?
Thank you. You too.
Who's gonna save you? Who's gonna make you?
It'll be fine next time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Come on.
Is the baby due?
Not you.
I don't know. Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry, buddy.
Hold it.
1337. Can I get back?
Yes. It's in my head.
Yeah.
Coming home from work. I think I've had everything that I need.
The taco night? Thank you. Have a good night.
The CEO?